I was born in 1980, so I grew up through the 80s and 90s listening to and watching a lot of music, movies and TV shows of the period. I have asked a bunch of different poll questions on the channel and this was one of them. What's the best era for this specific content? I'm not entirely sure of the age range of everyone who has subscribed. I myself am in my mid-40s as stated in my video Doncaster of Me, so I will have primarily grown up having listened to a wide variety of music, including from my parents' youth prior to the 1980s, but also a lot of the tunes of the 80s onwards. Singers such as Kate Bush singing about running up that hill and making a deal with God, or Army Dreamers, or being suspended in Gaffer and Cloudbusting, and groups such as Def Leppard singing from having sugar poured on them or wanting and needing Animal were often played when I visited my dad's home. Over time, alongside getting into liking those artists, I developed tastes of my own. Heading into the 90s, we had the rivalry of Blur versus Oasis in Britpop, and in the early 90s, Nirvana's Kurt Cobain smelled like Teen Spirit and invited you to come as you are. A lot of the groups who started and continued into the 80s and 90s, such as Rolling Stones, joined the likes of groups such as My Chemical Romance, 30 Seconds to Mars, Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, who were up and coming into the scene, singing about it not being a scene but a arms race and having high hopes or teenagers scaring the out of them. But what is the best era of music? Is it the pre-80s glam rock era, the 80s rock music, or 90s grunge and alternative that didn't invest in auto-tune and increasingly in machines and AI as we have come to see? Music from groups like Massive Attack with ethereal atmospheric tunes like Teardrop, all the way back to Dexys Midnight Runners singing about Eileen or Gino, being asked to pass the Ducci on the left-hand side, or Frankie telling us all to relax, Wham suggesting we choose life and vocalising about Club Tropicana, Erasure asking us to give them a little respect. It's all there. For as long as there's been the ability to create it, there's been music. Personally, I am more particularly in love with the 80s first and foremost, though I have respect for the 90s too, as I was between 10 years old and 19 years old then. Music has a way of grabbing hold of you and making you feel something deeply. Even a piece of music from a film like The Cure's Burn from The Crow or Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls from City of Angels. Music can lift you up, can make you feel empowered. The words can speak to you and have clear personal meanings, which is why it's one of the most important parts of anything, including a movie or TV theme tune soundtrack, which can bring back memories of where you were and who you were with. We all have those tunes that resonate with us, even from before the 80s, back into the 50s, 60s, 70s and before. Dancing along to Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, listening to Ground Control trying to reach out to Major Tom, Madonna wanting to take a holiday or begging her papa not to preach. The reimagining of tunes like Simon & Garfunkel's Sound of Silence by Disturbed is haunting. Many versions of Running Up That Hill or even the sample of Cloud Busting by Utah Saints, they can sing to your heart and your body and get you up on the dance floor or even just having a boogie in your seat. So what was your personal choice of musical era? Are you a pre-80s or a post-noughties listener? Do you have the same eclectic taste as I do? What band or artist defines it the most for you? Let me know in the comments down below, and there's more to talk about too with what is the best era of movies? What is the pinnacle of perfection for you? Would you like to travel back and forward in time with Marty McFly, bus goes with Venkman and the gang, run from terrifying dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, or learn spells with Harry Potter and cast the One Ring into the lava with Frodo in Lord of the Rings? Perhaps going on a raid with Indiana Jones or Lara Croft is more your cup of tea. Maybe avoiding the end result of watching a cursed tape is more your thing, or trying to stay awake for Freddy doesn't come for you. Looking into the black soulless eyes of Michael Myers, or avoiding becoming another victim at Camp Crystal Lake at the hands of the Voorhees. They no longer make movies the way they had used to back in the day I was growing up. The twist in films like Friday the 13th, Nancy trying to convince her parents or the doctors at the mental hospital Freddy Krueger may be dead but he hasn't stopped being able to kill. Haddonfield being terrorized by the boogeyman. Even with remakes and reimaginings, you can't recapture brilliant debut performance of Johnny Depp being pulled into his bed or Kevin Bacon getting skewered from underneath with an arrow, nor the POV and reveal of the killer in Halloween. 90s movies paid enough homage and poked a little fun as well, the likes of what went on to be ongoing Scream franchise. I Know What You Did Last Summer, even the precursor to the TV series with Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie starring Christy Swanson. I know that a lot of movies have become repetitive and unimaginative, but there have been fresh franchises that have popped up, including the likes of Art the Clown in the Terrifier series, Hereditary, Midsommar, even some at the time scary movies like Paranormal Activity and The Blair Witch Project, even if they did go on to lose their way like Saw ultimately has with how much it's milked. Even action movies such as The Fast and the Furious after the loss of Paul Walker isn't the same as it was when it began now. What is your personal favourite era of movies? As a girl raised in the 80s and 90s, though I can appreciate earlier or later efforts, will always be movies like Terminator 2, Judgment Day, The Crow, movies with threat, atmosphere and stakes to the game, which I feel there can be way too much expectation of suspension of belief and messing with the law, etc. now in the modern cinema with its overuse of remakes and reimaginings, leaving not enough genuinely good movie making anymore. And since this is how I mentioned the Christy Swanson version, let's move movie on to the Joss Whedon-led TV version of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, one of the first TV vampire shows, casting stars such as Sarah Michelle Gellar in Christie's place and fleshing her out more after the results of her calling as she moved with her mom to Sunnydale and made friends with Nicholas Brandon's Xander Harris, Alison Hannigan's Willow Rosenberg, and eventually a whole plethora of other Sunnydale High alum. Eventually the cast was joined by Seth Green as the soon-to-be werewolf Oz, Eliza Dushku as Faith Lahane, who replaced Bianca Lawson Slayer, who'd replaced Buffy during her brief death at the end of Season 1. Even Charisma Carpenter went on to become a Scooby Gang member. As you can see, personally, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was one of my personal TV vampire show favourites. I did go on to initially like True Blood when that came out, and yes, I had gone and seen every Twilight movie. I was Team Alice and so wasn't bothered about Edward or Jacob. Other shows I liked included the one series and then a wrap-up movie show, Firefly, also a Joss Whedon project. I was probably not necessarily the demographic continuously for these shows, but I stuck with things a lot more than I do now. I'm also sadly more a new Whovian than classic series, as in 1989 the original show dematerialized off the air as Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred wandered off, and outside of Big Finish audio dramas and the 1996 TV show, it didn't come back to our screens for what was Christopher Eccleston's one and only series until 2005, where the former pop singer Billie Piper joined him as the first new companion, Rose Tyler. I grew up with a lot of kids' TV cartoons such as He-Man, She-Ra, Thundercats, Dungeons and Dragons. It's no wonder I loved the 80s nostalgia of Stranger Things, even if the 80s had more real-life horrors than Demogorgons, Mind Flayers and Vecna. Sometimes all we need is escapism, and shows like this were doing mostly well for a few seasons, or I admit it fell off in the last season, which I think was Netflix pressure on the Duffers and Sean Levy. What else was there? When I'd grown up and I'd had kids of my own, things that I'd watched like Saturday morning TV such as Going Live were no longer an option. My own kids will have been watching anything from Teletubbies and Tweenies right the way to the most recently Coco Melon and the like. TV is another medium with the advent of binge streaming on things like Netflix, Disney Plus and BBC iPlayer that has changed. We don't need to wait to consume most shows now on a weekly basis anymore. We can watch it all in just a few hours and go back over it all just like we can with music and movies, as it's all available at the touch of a button and as subscription these days if you have the money and devices to watch, including tablets, laptops, desktops, smart TVs and phones. So what do you think is the best era of television? Did you tune in every week to see what Buffy was up to? Did you tune in to Firefly only to be disappointed in its cancellation? What really gripped you that I haven't already mentioned? Don't forget to leave a comment in the section down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this dive into music, movies and TV, and subscribe for more content coming soon. Thank you for watching Lou's Reviews plus Community Army. Bye!